Hello and welcome to Heartcast. And join us live for live coverage from West Coast FanCon. I'm Humphrey Erm.
And I'm Christian Claus.
Lifeline. Give me Faith, Volume 2, California Scheming.
Issue 1. Faith goes about her life, playing D&D, stopping crimes, and being late for work. She's having trouble juggling her superhero life and her normal life. During one of her crime stoppings, she's hit with a weird gun that blocks her psionic powers for a couple of seconds. While she's debating whether she needs a costume upgrade, yes, she does, she gets an email from Chris Criswell asking her to meet him because he's such a big fan. She discusses it with Archer, weird, and decides to go. When she arrives and they take photos, Chris stabs her with what looks like an EpiPen. Faith gets weak, Chris catches her and tells her that she just met her arch nemesis.
Alright. So it wasn't quite that long ago since our last Faith volume, I think.
Yep.
So, yeah, yes, a few weeks. So like a month ago. So, but yeah. So I'm going to say one thing immediately before anything else.
Yeah.
This kind of feels, and I'm not sure if you'd agree with me, but this kind of, like the whole volume, especially the last half, it kind of feels like a sort of Archer and Armstrong light in terms of like what's happening and how like the tone is.
No, I don't think so. I didn't feel that at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, you don't get, like the, the drunken stupor of, Armstrong and stuff like that. But in general, the kind of silliness involved, we can discuss more with the convention, the like chapters later. But I don't know, this is like that's something I was thinking of when reading through it.
I don't know. I don't think it felt like that at all. It felt like, it felt like one of those crossovers where, the like Archer, or not Archer, where Arrow comes over to the Flash series. Because there's like a bigger group there, but only one guy comes over, and it doesn't really change the setting at all. It's just that character there, and he brings his dynamics along. So it's usually one of those things where it's like, or like when they asked for Constantine to come in Arrow that one time. It was like, oh, look, we have this weird power thing that's going on. Let's get someone who knows his stuff, and that's what I kind of see this as, where, before, they didn't really know what was going on before it happened, but it was more like, okay, let's introduce a mystical element into Faith, and let's get someone who can deal with that, namely Archer.
So I suppose, but the thing wasn't so much of Archer's involvement. It was just more in sense of, we'll discuss it more when we get to issue 3 and 4, which is also where it gets confusing, because you remember me mentioning last time that the first like volume of Faith was like a miniseries.
Yeah.
Which is why this one doesn't start with issue 5. It's still issue 1, because it wasn't technically part of the series, even though it's volume 2. So, but what are your thoughts on like the writing style?
I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of it before.
I feel it took like a bit, like it took another, how do you say? I feel it increased the amount of sort of geekiness in this volume compared to the last one.
Yeah.
Because in the last one I felt, we got this interesting thing going on with the Vine. And, Faith is a nerd, so that's why she, make little comments here and there. But the first page, which isn't a good thing when even if I'm looking forward to it, it's not good when the first page kind of gives you a bit of a, the cake is a lie, like, ugh.
Okay. I just didn't understand why it was in there. I was just like, okay, I guess.
Because you said a companion field, and there's a companion cube.
Oh, okay.
That's like, it's so stretched, or like, just because of.
Well, it feels forced. That's the thing.
Exactly.
And I wasn't sure if it was just me or if it's a thing, because I feel like this whole comic is just very forced, because I just feel this whole, I don't know, this ultra nerddom just feels so foreign to me. I mean, obviously, you're probably the biggest nerd I know, and even you aren't. Well, I don't know. Are you this nerdy?
Well, it depends on how you look at it in that sense. I mean, they're obviously, how do you say? I mean, they obviously want her to be a nerd, and she's been one both in her previous incarnation and now. Starting it off with them playing D&D, one of the nerdiest things you can do, and all our comments and stuff. It's I don't know. I mean, I buy it in that sense. It's more. I think my issue is because we're seeing it through her like lens. We're getting her like a narration,
Yeah.
and because of that, it's not just so much. Oh, look, Faith is nerdy. It's the whole story is nerdy.
Well, I think it's just the references that are just kind of getting too much. It's just, I don't know. I mean, like the whole thing when I don't know when in the third or fourth issue or whatever, when Faith meets Faith, and they
Mm.
immediately have that Star Wars conversation or something like that. It's just like, I mean, I kind of felt like Archer in that sense. It's just like, come on, just come on. There's no part of me that would ever think that anyone in that situation would get so distracted because of a nerdy thing. And also, I mean, we can talk about this later, but how much of a bad person is Faith? With every single time she thinks about dating someone, she's never thinking of Archer.
Mm.
I mean, I mean, I understand this whole thing about like, you know, having these celebrity crushes and stuff like that. And then, I mean, it's like the epitome of this particular evil is that, what was it, the free list or whatever it's called?
Oh yeah, I know.
Like a list of like a certain amount of celebrities that if you ever met and had a chance with, you could sleep with them, no questions asked, kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's just so like, well, dude. I mean, if the chance is there, I'm not gonna stop you. I mean, wow.
And I just think that is just the worst kind of celebrity hero ship and all that kind of shit. That's just like, that's just ridiculous. But the fact that she is in somewhat of a more or less healthy relationship with a guy that actually likes her, and she's just daydreaming about actors and other guys and all these like handsome buff blonde Chris's. I mean, I don't know, that just feels to me just really weird. And the worst part is she literally talks to Archer about it. In this issue, she literally talks to him about going on a date with her favorite actor.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So it's
I mean, what a piece of shit, honestly.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I get the impression that I guess they're I wouldn't say that it's an open relationship, but maybe it's one of those like, yeah, it's complicated. But it doesn't feel quite fair to Archer, considering also how he's a lot more. I'm not sure if the
Conservative?
word naive is right.
A conservative.
Well, conservative, definitely. But it's kind of an odd thing because I think we are missing one based on like the order. So I think maybe the events of Archer and Armstrong Volume 2, like of the new one, might have already happened because they kind of mentioned like their proper date.
Okay, so they did show that. I thought it was just an off-screen thing.
Well, it could be. I don't know. I mean, it's fine. It's not like we have to have had read that, I think. But that's the thing. They have gone on dates. Like, and as we saw in the first Archer and Armstrong volume, or the A&A,
Yeah.
no, I mean, he definitely sees her as a girlfriend, as he says. I do have a girlfriend. And sure, he kind of goes like he fumbles a bit there, going on
Yeah,
about.
but even then, it's not. I mean, even if you're dating around, like let's say you're dating multiple people, which if you're not serious with any of them, and they all know that you're not serious with them, it's fine if that's like all out in the open and everyone knows. But you still don't talk to women about the other women that you're dating.
Mm.
Can you imagine that? Like you're on a date with a woman, which they're having kind of with their little conversations on Skype or whatever. You don't talk about the other women that you're dating. I mean, that's just ugh. I don't know. I just feel like she's not. I mean, I just don't like her character anyway.
Mm.
And then just to add this, just kind of totally ruins her for me.
No, I see what you mean because it goes from like, I don't really care for all this. Oh, she's such a nerd,
Yeah.
but at least she's not like, okay, at least she's a good person and all that. And then, oh, that's kind of scummy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like I was saying with the last volume of Faith as well. I don't think she quite. I don't think she quite necessarily can hold up her own solo series, at least the way it is right now.
No.
Because I loved her. I mean, I know you didn't like Harbinger much, but I loved her in Harbinger because she was such a great like supporting character. I felt, she was the like one quote unquote normal person you could say, in terms of like reacting kind of like with shock at awful things happening.
Mm.
And there, I also felt the nerdiness worked because it was always this little sprinkle. Like in Harbinger Wars, I remember when they were driving into Las Vegas and went by the military, what do you call it, barrier, or when they stopped the cars and stuff.
Yeah.
So and I mean, she became kind of like this morality pet for Peter. Like he was always asking her for permission in terms of, can I brainwash this guy so we can go back past here? And she'd be like, yeah, okay, in this case it's fine, but you got to do the thing. And then he says the Star Wars line, these are not the droids you're looking for. And that to me is like, that's a nice, not subtle, but it's just a nice short thing. And it was like for that one page.
Yeah.
And then, the rest of the cool story was happening. But here it's so much like every other page or several times on a single page, just having some kind of line.
Well, it's kind of like they're trying to be like, oh, remember, she's a nerd. She's a nerd. She does nerdy stuff. And I mean, it's not like you and I, like when we're around, we don't constantly quote shows out of context or like, like if we even think about something about like companion field or anything like that, we don't immediately go like, oh, the cake is a lie. You know what I mean?
No, certainly, but we do with some little things. I mean, we're quick to have like some kind of like South Park quote if we think of something similar.
No, you maybe. But honestly, I
Oh,
haven't
you
heard.
kind of
I haven't
sometimes.
heard no, because I always do it wrong.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I always correct you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the last time you've done that even. I mean, like maybe when we were kids, like when we were teenagers or whatever, we were still quoting all this stuff. Like, but that was just obnoxious anyway. But now I don't remember the last time I quoted something just because of for the lulls or whatever.
I don't know. It's for me, it's more natural, so I can think of like, oh right, I remember when I did it.
You know what this reminds me of? Have you watched that Will Smith movie on Netflix?
Bright?
Yeah, Bright. The one that's like, yeah, whatever.
No, I haven't
Um,
seen it. I've heard mixed reviews.
yeah, I didn't like it at all. It's one of those things where I got so uncomfortable watching it. I mean, I'm not against swearing in any way, as you might have noticed in this podcast, but it just annoyed me because every other word out of these people's mouths was fuck. It says that they were constantly like, get on the fucking floor, get on the fucking floor. I don't have that. Fuck that. You're fuck you, no fuck you, no fuck you, no fuck you. Like there
Mm.
was literally a scene where it went back and forth between the cops and these like gangsters that they were literally. I mean, you can find the clip online and play it right here. It's these two gangsters just constantly going, no fuck you, 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 and I'm just like, what? Newbie screenwriter who has no idea what tough guys sound like was writing this movie, because it just like that's like the typical thing that you have, like this straight out of college kid has like white kid who's never been on the streets or anything like that thinks what gangsters sound like. Gangsters swear a lot, so every other word has to be a fuck or a bitch or a whore or some I don't know.
So I guess there's a reason that script was shopped around a lot before Netflix grabbed it.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just horrible. So basically, this is what I see Faith as.
So, but with the nerdiness rather than swearing.
Right. It's someone who doesn't entirely know how nerds talk or doesn't know how to like represent nerds correctly. So they think like, oh, but in order to like, because we can't have her walking around in like nerdy t-shirts like they do on the Big Bang Theory all the time
Mm.
because they're copyrighted or whatever, or we won't recognize them because they can't necessarily use the ones that we recognize. We have to make her quote stuff that sounds like, oh, I understand that joke because, oh, I'm a nerd too. So I think that's what's going on here. And thank you so much, Cosmo. I have all the windows closed because I don't want any sound in here.
Oh.
And he's just been farting so much. It smells so bad in here right now. Cosmo's my dog, by the way. Not thinking that there's some guy in here farting.
I knew, but now when you said it, I'm just seeing some guy in a beanbag in the corner.
Or listeners might not know exactly what my dog's name is.
Oh god, I'm just seeing some weird, like, big fat hairy roommate in his underwear and a beanbag in your corner with his tablet. It's kind of, what? I'm quiet. It was silent.
Yeah.
I'm not bothering anyone.
All right. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents on Faith.
No, I agree. I mean, I didn't think too much into it, like as I was reading it, because this is the first time I've read this volume as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the thing is, it has this kind of I don't know how to describe it. I'm sure there is some like genre name for this kind of like comic. It's something that's like very common with a lot of these like new Marvel comics. So the ones that a lot of people complain about these days.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's a lot of it is just it's these superhero women just kind of hanging out and maybe a little bit of action, but otherwise it's just them kind of spouting references or I don't know like how to describe it really. So, but that's the thing. It's kind of I don't know. It's hard to describe because again, I feel it's fine in terms of having this more simple superhero story.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, she stops a burglar. Like, I don't think has any other Valiant hero done that.
No, but I mean, I wouldn't really count that as a story point. I mean, I think it's just one of those things where the plot point in that scene was that she was shot with some new type of gun.
Oh, certainly, which we don't quite really get to. I guess it'll be next volume.
Yeah.
As well as it's also kind of a nice moment because I like it whenever they try to be somewhat realistic with how superheroes would be treated, so to speak. In the sense of like, oh well, she doesn't really have any proof of what happened. Like for all they know, the as he said, like I was going to a costume party, officers, promise.
Yeah.
So which kind of reminds me of one of the early Spider-Man issues, which had a similar scenario where he stopped some burglars from breaking into a shop before they did it. And thus they were calling for the police, the burglars, basically going like, oh, help, Spider-Man's attacking us.
Yeah.
Which again is a great moment because that was a rare thing at the time, like, oh man, poor Spidey. Like he was trying to help and then he's the one who gets the blame. And though even here she doesn't really get like blame or anything. She's just kind of awkward. So, but I gotta say, I mean, we'll get into more about him later, but I love Chris Criswell.
Okay.
I mean, in a sense, it is kind of funny because they were just kind of mentioning about last time she was asked for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out it was like this alien cult. And in fact, at the second time as well, it's also like, nope, it's also a bad guy. It's kind of fun. I like when they're in front of the green screen and he's talking to her and then he whispers, it's going to be so much fun destroying you. Are you hitting on me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like that. Oh, yeah, but even then, there we get that, as you said, with her being a terrible person.
Yep.
So where she goes on, like, trying to kind of justify things, going like, because there's this guy that I'm kind of already, he's not really my boyfriend, not yet. Maybe he thinks he is. We kind of just had this fight.
Yeah, what a bitch.
Issue 2. Having been captured by Chris Criswell, we find out that he always wanted to be a supervillain, but his good looks typecast him as a hero all the time. Using his money from his movies, he has financed a small crime syndicate. But now, having captured Zephyr, he'll use her death as a means of getting more superheroes to fight him. Faith manages to escape her bonds and defeats Chris and his stunt doubles, sending him to Yale. She then meets Clara again, who reveals that she figured out who she was from doing a cosplay commission for someone, and is now offering to make improvements to Faith's costume. We end on a sinister note, as it seems getting arrested was all according to plan for Chris Criswell and some anonymous partner. So this is part of the stuff I was also thinking was very Archer and Armstrong-y. Like, you remember the Quantum and Woody Archer and Armstrong crossover with the hobos?
Not really.
Okay, so but it kind of reminded me a bit there because they had a character there who was this rich man who wanted to live the life of a hobo.
Oh yeah, because I think I mentioned that podcast then in that moment.
So probably.
Yeah, you don't listen to the podcast that I recommend.
So I don't think so. But yeah, it's just this silly scenario there. You're having this rich man who was looked down upon by those, hobos. He tried to be like them, going off as a hobo with his butler. And yes, again, a silly scenario of this guy getting resentment for these hobos. And it's like, why do you care? And same thing here with Chris Criswell. It's just such a silly thing. Like, he always wanted to be a supervillain, but he's too
Yeah.
good looking, so he always gets the hero parts. It's just a funny scenario. And that's what I mean with if you compare it in with like the other comic. Like, this is kind of if you want to split the Valiant universe up in sort of two tones, I guess. And we have like the serious tone with like Exo Manowar, Bloodshot, Harbinger. And then we have the more like light-hearted tones with Archer and Armstrong, Quantum and Woody, and now Faith. Where we have things like where we can have characters like this. I mean, and that's what I mean, like Chris Criswell, like as a concept could have worked in Quantum and Woody or Archer and Armstrong, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, remember back in that old Archer and Armstrong we read as well, where they entered that celebrity place, that church.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that too is just such a crazy scenario there, where it's like the representations of all of these celebrities that can't die because everyone's fans of them. And that's what I kind of mean, like this kind of has that feeling of being kind of like that, where it's just got an odd scenario and then just sort of played straight, but also a bit self-referential. I mean, again, no one actually, I think it's very rare in any time in like reality without it just being a crazy person. Not saying Chris Criswell isn't a crazy person, but like no one wants to be a supervillain, so to speak.
I'm pretty sure there are people who want to be a supervillain.
Oh no, I'm sure, but it's not like it's not so much for the actual what it means to be a supervillain. They just want to have like a costume, be respected and whatnot. I don't know. It just when you cast yourself as a villain, you're immediately just by the name casting yourself as a bad guy knowingly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like one thing about well, I don't think this bad guy is a bad guy. Like I actually think Doctor Doom is actually the good guy in all his comics. Again, it means that you've kind of misread it or have very different value system.
Mm-hmm.
But like okay, you don't see him as a villain. But when you have a character who actually, they know they're a villain, they want to be a villain. I don't know. It's not entirely believable, but it works for me in terms of how do you say, like of our comedic tone.
So, when did this comic come out?
2016.
So after Scott Pilgrim.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Especially because it's, Chris Criswell, who is supposed to be, an amalgamation of all the Chris's that are out there.
Mm.
And it's literally Chris Evans in that movie who has his stunt doubles come in to beat up on his enemy.
Mm.
I don't know. That felt just so I don't know, would ripoff be the right word or is it an homage? Do you think it was like a reference to that or I
I
don't know.
mean, well, that's the thing, and I don't think it would be because I think they, considering how they want to make all the nerdy references clear in this book.
Yeah, this wasn't clear enough.
Well, again, I would have thought there would be a line then somewhere,
It would have been something
like
maybe
as
like
they're
something
running
about like
towards her, she'd be like, "Oh, looks like it's Faith versus the world,"
right.
or
Yeah.
like, "I think I saw this in a movie once," or.
Yeah.
But again, it's a fun thing. I mean, it's not something. I don't think it's something that. What would the word be? I don't think it's something that Brian Lee O'Malley can copyright. Like,
No,
oh,
no, of
having
course
a.
not. No, no, no. And I mean, it wasn't him. It was the movie. Like, it's not like that in the books.
Oh, okay. It's been a while since I read your books.
Yeah, in the Scott Pilgrim books, they just actually just have a chat.
Okay.
Like they actually sit down and have a smoke, or at least he smokes. Because in in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, or in the comics, anyone who smokes is a bad guy. And then there's this one character who turns into a bad person, and then she starts smoking at some point before we know that she's actually a bad guy. So you could actually kind of put that together. Anyway, the comics are amazing.
Foreshadowing.
If you haven't read the Scott Pilgrim comics, read them. They're amazing. Do you think she's into Archer because he kind of looks like a smaller version of Chris Criswell?
That could be.
I mean, blonde, short hair, toned. She definitely has a type.
Oh, certainly. I don't know. I mean, again, I honestly like this issue a lot better because there's not so much about her than being a bad person. It's just kind of a very typical superhero thing, like to the point of where I don't know. It's like one of those things where it feels like it's what people kind of remember comics being. Like how people still to this day think of like, oh, Batman, yeah, yeah, na 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 na. Even though that show has not been on the air for decades, and we've had so many other iterations of Batman, it's still people think back to like Adam West and the Pow Zow.
Do you think so? Do you think the na 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 hasn't just become disconnected from Batman in some way? Because I doubt people are actually thinking about because what I mean, what's funnier when someone says Batman? Do you go na 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 or do you go dun 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 dun
It
dun?
depends. I mean, maybe it has gone past that now due to the oversaturation.
Yeah, I don't think most people
But I
understand that there was
remember
a
back in the
60s.
day,
Yeah.
like even when it shouldn't, like it should still have been sort of. Again, it shouldn't be forgotten. I love Adam West,
Hey,
but
rest in peace.
yes, but it's more about the sense of what's the word? Well, it's kind of like how whenever someone complains about Batman being too silly, like with any new iteration, and then it's kind of like, have you forgotten like the Nolan trilogy and all of these other like depictions of him as dark and gritty? Like you're acting like those never happened. So then when we get like Batman Brave and the Bold, people feel betrayed, even though it's like, no, this kind of feels right with the cycle.
Hmm.
Like, okay, we kind of gone really dark and edgy now. Let's get it back down to the silliness a little bit.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that's the thing here sometimes, where it kind of gets the feeling of, right, superhero comic, death traps and nemesis and
Nemesis.
yes. But that's the kind of thing. It kind of feels at times the book, and again, I didn't get this feeling with the first volume. I actually liked the first one a lot better. But it kind of feels like this one's trying to deconstruct something or poke fun at things, but not quite making it clear. I don't know how to describe it. Because again, a death trap is a very classic superhero thing, but it's kind of played straight, but then also kind of made fun of with the idea of him being self-aware of being a supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. So I am looking forward to what's going on with him though, because I'm a sucker for anything like that where oh he wanted to get arrested.
Yeah.
Though they've always confused me with any story like that because I don't know, like what if they underestimate the hero? Oh crap! I apparently did kill her. Crap. So this was not according to plan. I was sure she was going to figure out how to break free. Right, and now a message from our sponsors.
Housework got you down? Is your child begging you to come to his soccer game and you just want to watch people who actually can play soccer instead? Well, now you can. With the Rockta statue, you can duplicate yourself. No longer will you have to do things you don't want to, or if you need an extra helping hand, you've got your back.
Hey there, nerds and nerdettes! Join us this weekend for the West Coast FanCon, the biggest non-copyright infringing convention on the West Coast. Remember, if you cosplay, you get in at half price. And no, Valiant characters don't count.
Issue 3. Faith and Archer go to a con. During their time there, a couple of stores are robbed. They obviously want to help, and with help of Faith's hacker friend, they manage to locate the perp. They corner him in his hotel room and begin to fight. Faith lifts some of his stolen collectibles just as the guy shouts an incantation and one of the collectibles explodes in a green light. Faith and Archer are pushed into the hall as they see two perps running out of the hotel room. Faith thinks it's just a trick of the eye until a second Faith comes out of the hotel room. Hilarity ensues.
Yep. This was kind of fun, though, in the sense of like what they could have done. I don't know. It sounds odd to say like what they could get away with in terms of like characters to depict. So it was kind of fun seeing certain references here and there.
Yeah, a lot of anime because there's no copyright on it like that. Like in that sense, you know.
Yeah, you saw the female Titan.
Yeah, and also Sailor Moon.
That's true. That was in the previous issue as well.
And there's like a Thor Dragon Ball kind of thing there too, and a Wolverine. Ghostbusters. I think that might be a Trunks. Oh, there's Avatar too. There's Aang.
Oh yeah, you're right. Actually, they're all like recolors. I wonder if that was.
Hey, there's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle too.
Actually,
and a Harley Quinn too.
Actually, do you think that might have been like a last minute thing in coloring?
Oh, like God, that's Korra right there.
Yeah.
Oh God, I didn't even notice that.
I'm just wondering, like, if that was a thing, like, you know, the artist drew, like, either the writer was very specific about, oh yeah, I want, you know, like Korra here and Ninja Turtles there,
right?
And then at some point, like during coloring or something, they were told, like, yeah, you can't have them actually look exactly like them or something,
right?
It's just kind of fun seeing, like, again, because it really feels like it's these like Chinese like knockoffs.
Oh God, there's Where's Waldo too.
Oh, I missed that one. Where?
On page 104.
I gotta see that.
And there's also Daredevil is also there. Oh my God.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few fun things.
Hey, there's a Khal Drogo on the next page with the Darth Vader. A Boba Fett, a Pikachu, Jason Voorhees. Oh my God, I am much more of a nerd than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, now you're just spouting out the characters. Of course, it's, you know, relevant. You see them here. It's kind of fun here, too. We get what's called during the title sequence, or whatever we call it. And we go for the artist. What do you call it? Artist Alley. Then we get to see, like, the artists and writers on the show, or on the comic. So as we see Pere Perez, they're artists for this volume. So sleeping, and we also see like the big name of Clayton Henry in the back there.
Yeah.
Kind of fun. Jeff Lemire to the right, the writer for Bloodshot Reborn. Spider-Man writer in the back there too, Chip Zdarsky. Don't know all of them though. And of course Gail Simone.
I know none of them.
But yeah, that's kind of thing. I mean, but that's the thing, and this is a scenario that's built for what they want. And also in this case where it is just like characters in the background and things. It's like, sure, yeah, it's fun. And honestly, I like the concept of this story. And it's just kind of fun having like a hero at a convention. I mean, it'd be more fun if she was dressed as herself in a sense, but wasn't taken seriously.
And then people were like, "Ugh, you don't look anything like her. She's so much taller."
Yeah, that's always
That's
fun.
the classic.
So, but that's always fun. And but of course, it's not quite the same either since she's kind of weird because she sort of has three identities. Because they notice she's called Faith Herbert, which is her real name, but then she has her like fake one for what's the word, for joke for work.
Summer something. Summer Sanders. I don't know.
Yeah, it was Summer something. Yeah, because I remember they were talking about like, okay, is that a
Buffy
Buffy
reference.
thing or a
Yeah.
Cyclops thing? That's the thing. Like, it's such a fun scenario. Like this, because the convention's just filled with all these costumes and things.
Yeah, but honestly, why? Why change the story in the middle of the comic? Because you had a comic going, like you had a thing going, like the whole Chris Chriswell thing, right? So, you know, why not continue with that?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't feel it. Maybe the story was planned to be a bit longer than what a volume could contain.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it just feels like, uh, yeah, it just feels like they're just kind of setting up a story that they could have finished right there.
Hmm.
I mean, they better not start doing like, oh, we're only going to do 2 issues per, story arc, and then like we're going to cut them up like those stupid Donald Duck comics. So you always have to buy the next one to find out what happens.
Ah, yeah, those.
Yeah.
I almost always. I mean, it's not so much that I hated them, but I always thought it was so weird when they'd have those like oversized issues, and sometimes they would have like a two-parter within the same comic,
Mm,
which was always so weird because it's like, why didn't you just put them in order? So like we have like a whole, oh wow, a cliffhanger. Oh wait, after a little, side comic, it's now back to the story.
right.
So, but I kind of again, but this is again like I was saying, part of the fun of like sort of Archer Armstrongy. Like, okay, cool, we have like this cool artifact that they reveal later to be from the dead side, and the perpetrator is in this, mouse costume. It's just something like it could have just been like a guy in like an old cultish robe or whatever, but the extra absurdity of being in such a costume, it just makes it fun. So, and again, it's the same thing here as you were saying, like in the recap in terms of hilarity ensues.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's the kind of thing there where she, like in the last volume, she was pointing out like things she'd probably have to face off against, like, oh no, brainwashed the teammates. I didn't think that would happen yet.
Yeah.
So for her being then all aware of like, who's the evil double? Issue 4. Having just been cloned, both faiths get along pretty fine. Dating could get weirdo. And go
Ugh.
looking for murder. And go looking for Murder Mouse, whose many clones are tearing the con apart. While fighting them, they come across the original with the magic artifact, which Archer quickly disposes of, but ends up making it charge up and post to explode. One of the faiths is immediately ready to sacrifice herself, which makes the second one punch her out, realizing that that means she herself must be the clone. She flies up into the sky with the artifact, letting it blow herself up, making all the clones disappear. Punched out Faith remains, meaning the clone was right. They take the train home in a somber mood.
Yeah, again, they had another one of those dating could get weird things. And Archer, nowhere to be seen. I don't know. It's just one of those things where her kind of. I mean, I know men do this too, where they kind of like talk about or dream about, what's going to happen when they fuck a supermodel kind of thing.
Mm.
And it's always like, dude, look at yourself. You sit around at home all day drinking beer and watching sports. She's not going to be into you. with like a 99% probability. And I also just feel like Faith, you're a normal person. Celebrities don't always necessarily go for the normal people. You know what I mean? And it's just so frustrating for me to look at this and be like, hey, you have an amazing guy who's coming to a convention that's totally outside of his comfort zone. He even dresses up for you and all that stuff. And you still have to think about other dudes. I
No,
don't
I
know. It's
agree.
just, I mean, again, I'm not saying that's shitty because she does it. I mean, men do this too. This exact thing. They're like together with a perfect person, but then they're just imagining that supermodel. It's just, I don't know. It's just, ugh.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, in the Valiant universe, we have Woody being an asshole.
you know,
I mean, like in the first like arc there, in the first like volumes, he had that clone 69. So who like loved him and everything, and he would go after other women,
yeah,
even though she was like she saw past all his flaws and was supportive and everything, and like still, which again is fine, but then in the end he still also kind of wants her, which is I guess the crux of all of these things. No one is obligated to be with anyone, but the problem I guess is the fact that people kind of want both. They want the security of having this one person who does want them, but then to be free to find quote unquote something better.
just in order to mention it, could it be that that is Archer?
Oh, in the other art style,
Yeah,
maybe. It is kind
because
of hard to
I'm looking
tell.
at when they're on page 134, they're punching a blonde dude that kind of looks like chiseled and whatever. So I'm thinking, what if that's Chris Criswell? Because why would she still be, daydreaming about Chris Criswell after she knows that he's a bad guy?
No, I agree.
But I mean, it doesn't really look like him. The hair is a little bit longer and stuff like that. And definitely in the one before, she was still daydreaming about Chris Criswell. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that is Archer. But that's the thing. Like, why not give him at least, especially in the first one where we see him, when she says the whole dating could be weird the first time, you could put him in his Archer shirt.
Exactly. That's then we know like, oh, no one else
Cause
wears a shirt like that.
right, because it looks like it just looks like he's just some random another celebrity that's probably called Chris.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Chris Badley.
I mean, the whole thing with this kind of stuff is it's supposed to be this sort of like whimsical, not slice of life, I guess, or maybe a bit like this sort of whimsical, like magical slice of life where we have like, oh, this is how people are, but now we have this, extra twist where there's like magic and sci-fi in terms of like, okay, here's I have my own duplicate. Oh, that could be fun. Oh, but dating could get weird and all that stuff. I don't know. I mean, again, I like I like the setting. I like, as I said, like this sort of concept. But in general, it doesn't quite. I don't know. Like I said, I don't feel Faith works for her own solo ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt the first volume worked fine as this miniseries that it was supposed to be. And it felt like that could then be like a setup, like, okay, now we know what she's doing until she has to join up with the Renegades again in the future series. Like it's a nice thing to get out there. We know her current status quo, but her continued adventure so far is not something for me personally that is like, oh yeah, awesome. I love Faith and all her new supporting cast and like all the things happening. It's like so interesting. I can't say that with a straight face that I find all this very engaging.
It's not. It's pretty boring, actually.
So, which is kind of sad in some sense, because obviously, not everything Valiant does will always be amazing and great. But I think it's because it's been pushed a lot since we were mentioning that with the previous volume, with all the what's called all the stars it got from all these different publications.
And how it's supposed to be all body positive and stuff like that.
Well, it certainly is. I mean,
Yeah, it is, but I'm just saying that it's like it's pushing that angle a lot. You know, it's like when it's like when DC had its first, like when it was putting out Wonder Woman, it's just like, oh, it's the first female-led, you know, superhero movie in forever, and just kind of like, you know, really pushing that, and just like, it doesn't matter if it's a good movie or not, but it's, you know, history, guys.
Mm. Well, it's like the Black Panther thing too.
Exactly.
So they were lucky they were good movies.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing. It's I mean, of course, but the movies in general tend to point things out like that at times. Like I remember with Avatar the first time,
Ugh.
everyone was talking about the most expensive movie ever made. So it's like there's I mean they just want to have some kind of angle to kind of get people excited.
I just hate Avatar because uh, it's just a shitty movie. Or not just shitty, but it's basically it's so cookie cutter. It's so typical that the only thing that makes it anything different is just the visuals. So it's basically like, hey, let's string together a simple plot just to have some reason to show amazing graphics. And I just feel it's so stupid, and everyone bought into it. It's just the worst thing because everyone was just like, oh, it's such an amazing movie. Thank God at least the Oscars didn't.
Mm.
You know, at least the Oscars were
Well,
smart enough to
that
be
was
like,
where his wife won the Oscar, right, for Hurt Locker.
yeah. Oh, his ex-wife.
Oh yeah, because everyone's joking about that.
Yeah, his ex-wife won it. Which I think is amazing because I mean, yeah, hers was actually based on story. It was an actual thing. It was the Hurt Locker that won.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I can't say, but yeah.
Yeah, but it was something about story. It was about characters, not just like, ooh, look at this amazing graphics and it's all in 3D. Ooh, you're gonna learn to hate this. And it's just, I hated when people were telling me, like, because especially at that time I was still a film student, and then everyone was like, oh, have you seen Avatar already? It's such an amazing movie. And it's just like, fuck off. Like my heart still starts beating harder when someone mentions Avatar, and then I go into a rant. Who would have guessed? Go on, continue.
Yeah, no, it's but yes, about just mentioning Avatar there.
Avatar is such a okay. No, sorry.
No, but I'd be too remiss to not mention a scene that I did like a lot in the film, which was when he first, what would you call it, like transfers into the body,
I don't
into
know.
his
I haven't seen
avatar.
it.
Hmm?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Avatar?
No, because I protested it.
Oh, damn! I didn't realize that because the way you were talking, it sounded like you had seen it.
No, I mean, again, I've read about it. I know what's going on. I know the plot lines. I know the stuff.
Oh, okay, but you don't know the way if I'm talking about like the cinematography of a scene or something.
No, because I haven't seen it because I'm not going to give that guy my money.
Dude, you rented the Last Airbender.
Yeah, because I wanted to watch it. Because I wanted to see it because it was a good kind of bad.
All right then. No, but the thing is, there's a really nice scene because you know that the main character is what's called like
A dude.
disabled, like his legs don't work.
Yeah.
So when he then gets his body or like his mind transferred into his avatar of those what's called the Navi.
Navi, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Navi, it's Navi. Has a little h in the middle.
So, but I just love the scene where it first happens. So when he like wakes up in his new body, and I just felt again it must have been motion capture. I'm assuming, but there's just this beauty of him wiggling his toes in his new body. And I don't know for that again I wasn't super fond of the film either. So again I wouldn't call it bad because it's competently made. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a well-made movie, but I'm just saying that the praise that it got, I mean, it's akin to the same thing when people tell you that Frozen was an amazing movie.
Yeah, same thing. I'm kind of like, oh man, for like,
Because
again,
that's
it's
the thing.
overhyped. Like, I probably would have liked it better if it wasn't overhyped. Like, again, I still wouldn't think it was amazing, but it'd be like, wow, it's like breaking records and.
Right, that's what I mean. I mean, that's what I was so pissed off of that then Avatar became like the most highly whatever in whatever, you know, the highest rated, no, not highest rated, the most expensive. No, it got the most money.
Mm.
That kind of thing. It broke Titanic's record, whatever. And it's just like, at least Titanic was like one of those like, oh, it was an artsy movie, whatever, fine. But just that Avatar, fucking Avatar. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's a mediocre movie that people totally overhype because of some stupid thing. Yeah.
Oh well. So, but yeah, that's the kind of thing here. It just doesn't quite. And also, interestingly enough, in this volume, I didn't see a bunch of accolades in the book.
Right, because no one ever reads more than the first episode.
Exactly, which is always the sad. I mean, that's again, that's American superhero comics in a nutshell, anyways. So, which is why they so often what's called renumber their issues, so they can always say they have a new number one. Like that Squirrel Girl comic, where they even make fun of it on the cover. It's so it's our second number one this year.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, I don't feel I feel Faith works better in a group where you can kind of like bounce off more like conflicting characters, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, say what you want about Peter Stanchik, he what's called he definitely sets on a sort of different mood with the whole story. So having then someone as chipper as her around just kind of helps keep him grounded in a sense.
Yeah, balance it out a little bit.
Exactly. Like here, it's not so much. It's hard to say, like, cause it's. I've seen a lot of people describing this with like with the new Star Wars movies with Rey and such, in terms of like a Mary Sue and all that. Which again, a word that seems to have lost all meaning. But in general, looking through this volume, I don't know myself really what I would desire to quote unquote fix it. And by fixing, basically, making it more appealing to me. But not really. I'm not gonna say nothing happens. Things obviously happen. We see them,
Mm-hmm.
but she doesn't quite have anything going on really. Like she has this sort of generic superhero like patrol kind of thing. With her taking on that burglar in the first issue and stuff,
Yeah.
and she gets roped into things as well. But yeah, there's not really compared to like the other Valiant properties. They seem to have a bit more of a more goal oriented in some sense. Like here's the thing we need to get done. Bloodshot's always sort of on the run, trying to be in peace, you could say.
Huh, weird. It's kind of like we just had a conversation in private about this
I know, I know.
yesterday.
I didn't think of it until I started saying it.
Yeah, I was like, this is the kind of point that I was trying to make to you yesterday about your idea that you had. And you're just like, I don't see it. I don't know what's the problem with it. This is fine.
Well, the difference here, though, is that it isn't just its own like little story. It's part of a bigger universe.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, you want to have characters with long-term goals and short-term goals, and with Faith, it just seems like her goal is to settle into a superhero life. And but that goal is just so broad. And it's the same thing with your, I mean, we don't have to go into yours specific now, but it's the same thing with yours as well, is that you just have your goals are just too broad, like with your characters. And that's what I mean. Like we see this in Faith too. I mean, like, what does that mean? And then that's also why we have such a low interest in this, because we're just watching her have a life, and it's just boring because it's just like, okay, she has D&D, and then and again, if you love this character, this would be great. And this is also something that I wrote into something that I'm going to be publishing in a couple of weeks. It's just that you can't just assume that people will love the character. And even if you make it the best character ever, people want to see that character do stuff. There needs to be action. And with her, I mean, yeah, stuff happens, but it's always like stuff happens to her. In the second story that we were doing, or the second story here, was a little bit better because she had her whatever superhero instincts, and she was like, okay, something's going wrong. It's small scale, but it's fine. I mean, it's not something specifically for me because I want my stuff to be a little bit more big scale. But she hears about burglaries or like robberies from like these stalls, these shops, and she goes after it. She wants to find out more. That's good. She has action. She's trying to, go after something. And then that leads to something bigger, which is great. But the fact that she's just like flying around and sees a burglar and then gets the burglar, it's like, okay, yeah, it's quickly done and over. There's no real goal. Her goal was to get home. And then she had a little conflict during the way to get home, which is just a bump in the road kind of thing. It's not interesting. And especially because there was like the conflict wasn't that big. It was just like oh, I got you. Oh shit, I got shot. Okay, I'm good. Everything's good now. Okay, cool. And then, whoops, I fucked up. Oop.
Okay, but that's very interesting because this is something that I've seen a lot. So I listen to a lot of YouTubers who discuss a lot of modern comics and such. They can get a bit annoying at times because oftentimes they mix up personal taste and quality, which I guess is any kind of critic.
Yeah.
But a lot of them do mention this a lot with a lot of these modern characters, where there's often very little consequence to any of their failures. So, like as you said, it was a very quick thing. They're like, okay, that's interesting. So, this guy had this anti-psiot weapon. Where did that come from?
Right.
But again, it didn't last long. Like she still kind of succeeded because she managed to then both save him and herself.
I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if she could save herself, but he just splatted on the floor?
Well, then there's a question of tone there, though.
Yeah, but think about that. I mean, how an amazing of a left turn would that be?
Yeah, but it would be kind of. I mean, again, it'd be interesting, but then obviously.
I mean, yes, it's not the tone of this, but I'm just saying that. What if they had done that? I mean, think about just the fact that then. I mean, obviously this is going to be like totally weird, but let's assume. I mean, let's go full like Batman versus Superman on this. No, seriously. I'm talking like.
Yeah, I saw your tweet. You watched it recently.
Yeah, I watched it today. Not bad if you're also doing housework at the same time. But say she drops him because she shoots him with a thing. She's already crumbled up the whatever. Maybe she like gets like pissed at it and like crumbles up the weapon. But he falls, right? Splats against the ground. The police is like there or whatever and sees it. And they blame her for dropping this guy. Right. And then the whole thing starts about like, the whole media and social media stuff starts about like, should she even be a superhero if she can't like control her powers? She killed this guy. I mean, yeah, he was just a burglar, but he had like a wife and 2 kids at home and he couldn't get a job because.
He has rights though. Even criminals have rights. That's
exactly. That's what I mean. But like make it worse with like giving him a family and all that stuff like that he was trying to support by like burgling because no one would give him a job and he just got fired from Baskin Robbins or some shit like that, You know what I mean? Like, dude, give him a really tragic backstory. Now she's killed him, and then she goes to like his family, tries to ask for forgiveness, and they just shun her. Like they just like throw stuff at her, and it's like, get out of here! Where's my daddy? I love my daddy. He said he was gonna buy me a swing when we come back home, and he never came home, and it's all your fault. She just gets depressed, that kind of stuff. That's what I want to see. Okay.
Honestly, for me, it sounds more like on the opposite extreme.
This is what I would do if we took the Faith comics as a basis and made a Netflix show out of it, a la Riverdale or something like that.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh my God, we just finished Riverdale, and Jesus Christ, like. I really want to read the comics to be like, is there any of this in here?
No, I mean,
like,
there are some new comics they've made based on Riverdale.
Yes, I've seen those, but I mean like the classic comics, like the ones like, ooh, who's going to have sex with Betty and Veronica this time?
The only thing is the characters, like the names.
Yes.
Like, did you see that link I sent you?
No, I don't know which one you're talking about.
Well, it's gone now, but it was a story time from the latest Mad magazine.
I don't like reading those story times. They're just so
okay, but they made a Riverdale parody called Riverdale, of course.
Oh yeah, I think you did send it to me, but I opened it up and I saw it was one of those 4chan story times, and they're just so weird to navigate. So
okay, that was really fun because it starts off in the old classic style, reminiscent of the first parody they did in the one of the first issues they ever made. So it's really fun. Like it's like copied exactly. But then they have like this scenario where this the character sends them into the future, where they then turn into like caricatures of the actors from the show.
Mm. Mm.
And it's, I mean, I got kind of interested in the show from reading that because they were just putting out all these crazy things like, "Whoa, dude, look at my abs,
Right.
dude, abs. Hey, my dad has abs too. Wow,
Oh
everyone has
yeah.
abs."
Everyone has abs.
And then yes, the craziness of everyone, like everything's just so sexually charged, and
Yeah, all the time. Like seriously, Archie and Veronica have sex in like the worst moments ever. It literally is like one of those things where it's just like, no, there's more important stuff going on. You don't need to have sex right now. Come on.
and the whole thing there too is because they mentioned something about because there a teacher who's also hot for Archie.
Yeah, that's right at the beginning. She gets
Yeah,
kicked out pretty soon. Yeah.
which they kind of like make fun of there in the comic too, because they're pointing out that I mean she was like an old wrinkly lady in the
Her
original
name is
comic.
Miss Grundy.
Exactly. I mean that's the thing. She was just supposed to be a strict teacher. You know, it's kind of like. Rah, 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 rah. I mean, she looked like a grandma,
Right.
and then like, whoa, is that Miss Grundy? Whoa, I
Right.
love this universe.
Right. Right. Right.
So, but I think that's the thing there too. I mean, if I were to give you a compromised version of your vision of Faith, so perhaps not have it be something entirely that she can't take back, so to speak. Like maybe not have him die, but maybe like he's hurt or in a coma or something.
Paralyzed.
Yeah.
He's alive, but like from the waist down. So it's like kind of even worse than being dead.
At least something to show like that there's like consequences to her actions, getting in a little bit of the whole idea of
And then he gets
superheroes.
so many medical bills because of the American healthcare system that he kills himself.
Oh god, it's again you're a lot like Brian Brian Griffin when he's writing his stories.
uh,
Oh, but yeah, I mean, again, if we're giving a score in that sense,
mm,
I think this is actually not sure what I would give in like some earlier comics we've read, but like since we have like sort of like the traffic light and like the quality score.
right.
Again, I mean, if you like this kind of story where it's a little bit more lighthearted, fun references here and there, or you just really need to know everything, I'd give it like a yellow light.
Yeah, that's what I think Yellow Light would be for. It's like this, if this is a character that you would like because of whatever reasons, because you just want this kind of representation, you want to see yourself in this kind of comic or whatever, then yeah, definitely you want to get it, read this. So that would also, for me, a Yellow Light, yeah.
Yeah, because again, I wouldn't say like a red light. There's nothing like.
I mean, there's something here. It was enjoyable at moments. It's just this character is just not personally for me strong enough
Well,
to
exactly. I
have
mean,
their own
red lights
comic. Yeah.
reserved for. I mean, I don't think there's been a single red light comic we've read. I mean, maybe for you would be Imperium.
For me, it would be a couple of the Imperium ones, some of the stuff where like the Renegade stuff.
Mm.
And
All the
then
Harbinger
also,
things.
yeah, the Harbinger, that's the one. And then of course some of the Quantum and Woodies.
Mm. Yeah, for me, I think this. I haven't had a single one that's a true red light. I
Yeah,
mean, the only one was, of course, that last issue of Bloodshot.
right.
So, but that's specifically that issue because the rest was great. But yeah, that's the kind of thing here. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's there. But honestly, if you read the first volume of, I mean, that's where the yellow light comes in here as well. Like, if you read the first volume, which I liked of Faith, but then I don't feel you don't feel obliged to read this one. I feel
Right. Right.
it didn't quite add more to it that we already saw,
Mm.
and in general, the quality wasn't like if like out of 5 stars. I'm not sure. I'm kind of like between 2 and 3.
Mm.
Like I don't want to give like a point something because that just feels like a cop out.
Yeah, it's a cop out.
But because for 3 for me means like it's competent, solid, but it just not really has doesn't have quite enough highs to kind of like make it like, oh, it's good.
Mm.
So 2, I think I'd give it a 2 out of 5.
Okay. I mean, I would actually give it a 3 out of 5. I mean, I feel like
That's kind of funny considering I was a bit more defensive of it.
right. No, but I feel like it's competent. Like it's well made. You know, like the writing is fine. The voices are there. The story structure is there. The pacing is there. It's just the topics and the issues are just not interesting to me, and there's just stuff that I'd rather see than this.
Mm.
So I feel like it's kind of like movies that are well made movies. It's just not the correct directorial and writing choices, you know. So yeah, 3 out of 5, and yellow light for me.
All right then.
You can discuss this episode on Reddit, tweet us, or you can follow us on Facebook. Also, all of our episodes are available on our hosting site, Podbean. Links are in the show notes. Catch us next time for
4001 AD.